The number one superfood in the world is not this green powder. It's red meat. Now, before you click off, just hear me out. I know you've been taught that red meat is a dirty type of protein. Red meat obviously causes cancer, right? I mean, everyone knows that. It's a carcinogen. Causes type 2 diabetes, colon cancer, heart disease because of all the saturated fat. So why would I ever pick red meat as being a superfood? I have some wild information to share with you that you probably have never heard before. Yes, greens powder does have vitamins, vitamin C, K1, beta-carotene. And if we look at the vitamins and minerals, there's a lot more. There's all the B vitamins, there's other vitamins, there's most of the fat-soluble vitamins. With greens, you have magnesium and potassium. You do have a little magnesium and potassium with red meat, not as much. With red meat, you have more iron, selenium, and zinc. Out of all the advantages that this green powder has, I think it's the phytonutrients. It has a lot of phytonutrients, and that's great. It's very beneficial. Also, there is some phytonutrients as well in red meat, depending on if it's grass-fed. Red meat will also increase glutathione, which is an antioxidant. You'll have some DHA. And it has carnosine, which also is an antioxidant that prevents glycation, where you combine a sugar to a protein and it creates kind of a sticky protein. But there's something else that protein has that is the icing on the cake. I probably shouldn't talk about icing, but probably the biggest problem I had was brain fog. I could not wake up until later in the morning. And I stumbled on this book called Mastering the Zone, Chapter 2, and it talked about protein in relationship to countering the effects of insulin, because insulin, triggered by a lot of carbs, creates a lot of health problems. The biggest thing that he talked about was what protein triggered, and that was a hormone called glucagon. And glucagon is not just about losing weight, it's about stabilizing your blood sugar. Out of all the things in red meat, vitamins, minerals, because I took these as supplements, this is what was missing right here. Greens powder is incomplete and very low in protein. And this is why when I was a vegan, I was always starving. I was always hungry. This is what I was missing. And out of all the foods that give you the highest quality, it's red meat. And of course, I'm talking about grass-fed. I'm not talking about processed meat. They don't differentiate the two. And no, they have never proven that grass-fed red meat has caused cancer, heart attacks. There is absolutely zero proof. I mean, just think about it. How much of your body is protein? You got a lot of muscle. Did you realize that 30 to 35% of all of your protein is collagen? Ligaments, tendons, connective tissue like fascia, that's like a wetsuit that surrounds everything. Cell membranes have some collagen in it. Your skin has collagen. Your bones are 90% collagen. All of your enzymes, you have literally over 74,000 different types of enzymes in the body. They're all proteins. All the neurotransmitters, the things that help you think, these come from proteins. A lot of the hormones in the body are made from protein. A good portion of your blood is protein. We also need a lot of protein for our immune cells or antibodies. Our bodies naturally have this interesting mechanism called autophagy. When you exercise or basically go on a fast, your body goes through autophagy. That's a condition where your body is recycling old damaged tissue for building blocks for our DNA. There's a few amino acids. You have taurine, which is high in red meat, very low in protein. Taurine is needed to prevent high blood pressure. Then you have another amino acid called leucine, which is a very important amino acid to trigger the synthesis of muscle. And then we get this other interesting thing called gluconeogenesis, the production of new glucose. That happens in the liver. Some happens in the kidney, but most of it happens in the liver. This is a state where your body is making glucose out of protein. So in other words, if your body needs some glucose, certain tissues need it, and they can't get fed with anything else but glucose, your body has a mechanism to take amino acids from kind of the reserve or pool, which is usually going to be in the muscle, and turn it into glucose if you need it. So there is a bit of a reserve of amino acids, but if you're not consuming enough high quality protein, you can run into a problem because the body's going to then be short on these amino acids, and then it can start tapping into more and more of your muscle, and you can start losing muscle. Now, the whole point I'm trying to make is out of all the things that you eat, red meat is at the very, very top of the list. And of course, it's going to be vilified by certain people.
The World Health Organization did was, like you said, looked at hundreds of studies and put the evidence from those studies together to show that the consumption of processed or red meats was quite possibly associated with an increased risk of a variety of different types of cancer.
And that's usually how it works. I found an interesting observation about health. If you find that everyone's telling you one thing, okay, especially established conventional, medicine, look in the exact opposite direction for the truth. And this especially goes with this red meat, because what are they telling you about red meat? Stay away from it. It's going to kill you. The cows are destroying the planet. We have to get rid of all beef. Really? All right, now let me show you something even more interesting. The first thing is a hypothesis called the protein leverage hypothesis. Animals, insects, humans will continue to eat until they satisfy their protein requirement. And this is also data in the book called The Dorito Effect, where the author talks about insects and they'll keep eating until they get enough protein. I know this with my own animals, my horses, for example. If you raise a horse on certain grasses, especially in the spring or the fall, they get way too much carbohydrate and they get fat and they get all sorts of insulin problems. But really, it's a combination of just not getting enough protein. And when you think about it, when you consume this stuff, if you notice something very interesting about all this box food, it's always extremely low in protein. And if it does have protein, as in Ensure or protein bar, what you're going to notice is the type of protein is extremely low quality. We're talking about milk protein in the form of this caseinate, which is a refined protein, soy protein isolates, the worst of the worst. But also, protein will increase insulin. Why doesn't that make you fat? Because protein also at the same time stimulates that glucagon. And glucagon counters the effects of insulin. It helps stabilize the blood sugar. If people have low blood sugar, they should not be consuming candy. They should be consuming protein. Protein has always been great for my blood sugars. Now, I just want to mention a side note on red meat versus white meat. What's the difference? Well, red meat has something called myoglobin. That is a type of protein that helps carry oxygen. So there's less myoglobin in white meat than red meat. And you also get more iron in red meat. And this is especially good for people that are anemic. And so one more advantage of having red meat than white meat is if you're an athlete, if you exercise, and you want more support for physical activity, red meat is definitely better than white meat. A cow, a sheep, a goat, they have a unique ability to concentrate the nutrients from the grass and turn that grass into amazing healthy meat. Now, what's even more interesting is the fiber in the grass cannot be digested by any of these animals. So this is where we get into the microbes in their gut. They have multiple stomachs. They have this huge vat filled with microbes. It's the microbes that have the enzymes to break down the fiber. The animal provides home for the microbes, and the microbes in exchange turn that fiber into energy for the cow, protein for the cow as well. And a good portion of those microbes, when they die, will be absorbed and digested by the cow to help the cow get energy. Not only is protein the most satisfying macronutrient, but it's also the most thermogenic, which means it can help you burn more calories than fat or carbohydrate. Since we are on the topic of red meat, if you have not seen this video about red meat, you should probably check it out. It was really popular.